Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Dirk. Thank you for joining our live telephone town hall. This is an interactive forum, and we would love to hear from you. We'll be taking as many questions from participants as we possibly can live during this event. So if you have a question, you can press *3 on your telephone keypad at any time. You'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name and where you're calling from. Then the next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call and able to ask your question directly. Now, if you're streaming the event on our website, you can simply type your name and question below the streaming player. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can this evening. And now, here is United Cooperative Services General Manager and CEO, Cameron Smallwood.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cameron Smallwood. Thank you for joining us today. As a lot of you know, United engages its members in many ways, including community meetings, its annual meeting each October, Texas Co-op magazine, social media, and regular daily interactions, just to name a few options. And today, we're leveraging this telephone town hall platform to engage our members. During our time today, I will provide an update on a number of topics, so thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Cameron. Now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, this is an interactive forum, so we definitely would love to hear from you. We'll be taking as many questions from folks on the phone as well as online during this event. So if you have a question, remember to press *3 on your phone keypad at any time. You'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. We'll take down your name and where you're calling from. The next time you hear your name, you'll be live and able to ask your question directly. Also, if you're streaming the event online, you can simply type your name and question right below the streaming player. Again, we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can this evening. But if we're not able to address your question today, please email your question to townhall@ucs.net. Again, email townhall@ucs.net. So remember, if you have a question, please press *3 on your keypad or type them right below the streaming player. Cameron, back to you, sir.
Great. Thank you, Dirk. I appreciate all of you participating with us tonight. We've got a lot of information to cover. I'm going to try to be efficient with your time. And so I want to start with the fact that we are a nonprofit electric distribution cooperative. And that's really important to bring up to you because ultimately the way our business model works, anything that we bill you is really on a cost basis, and then any profit we make, we call it margin. Ultimately, that margin is returned to the members in their patronage account, and then every year our board looks to retire some of that back to you in cash. So ultimately, anything that we make, we cover our cost and then give it all back to our members at the end. So we've had a lot of social media comments with our rates going up recently that we're greedy or that we're taking advantage of our members or things like that of that nature, or that we're paying our people too much. You know, ultimately, folks, you know, we're here for you. We're here and utilize the cooperative business model to support you and serve you every day, and that's really what it's about. And so, you know, those comments, I understand the frustration about the high rates. We're going to cover those things with you in more detail. But our mission of providing you exceptional service and value is what we're focused on. And so we're going to cover those issues. And I know we got a number of questions coming in about rates, and we're going to be able to answer those for you tonight. It's important to understand your co-op is made of 72,000 and growing members and owners. So each one of you that take electricity from your co-op actually own your co-op. And so we're very focused on meeting your needs and your expectations every day. We do that through your board of directors that you elect every year. And so that board of directors gives us guidance, and we keep them up to date, and that's your tie to us as the management of your co-op. And we're here for one purpose, and that's you. We do that utilizing about 208 employees today. We have 8 offices, including our New Godley office. I will tell you we do have a Mansfield office under construction today to serve that growing area over there in the northeastern part of our territory. We do have over 100,000 meter locations that we serve, and so that's a lot of different locations that we serve. Another comment that we get sometimes, because we've been changing out our meters recently, is that that's the reason our rates have gone up. It has nothing to do with that. Basically, the system that we use today is no longer supported by the manufacturer, so we're changing out those meters. We had actually hoped to have it done by the end of last year, but due to some supply chain issues, we've had to delay that, but we will have that done by the end of 23. So ultimately, the meters are accurate. They've always been accurate. The last 25 years, we've used electronic technology, and those meters are really good meters, and we're continuing to use those today. They just communicate to us in a different way with this new system. Now, I mentioned a bit ago that when we put the profit back into your accounts every year, that every year that your board looks to try to retire some of those patronage accounts back to you in cash, and we do that through our member dividend program. The last 2 years, we were not able to do that because of the Brazos bankruptcy process, and we're going to talk about that a little bit to let you know sort of how that's ended up. But we do hope to restart that this year in 2023, and so we're really looking forward to getting back to that as we go forward. We got a list of topics today. If you're following us online, you'll see that list. I'm not going to read that to you today, but I will ask you, we have one survey question in about 20 minutes from now that's really important that we get your feedback and engagement on. And so I really hope that you'll hang on with us for that long because we really want your feedback, and Dirk will cover that with you here in a little bit. But we're going to move forward. You know, we really want you to be aware of what's going on at your cooperative. And our key way of doing that, obviously, is town hall meetings like this, but a really important thing that our members really need to pay attention to is our monthly magazine, the Texas Co-op Power. So in the middle of that magazine every month, we have a number of pages that we write and that we put in place to explain what's going on at your cooperative. The last 5 months, we've had articles, a series that we've put together that explains the situation that's happened with Brazos and how the bankruptcy's gone and how everything is settled out at the end. And so if you haven't been paying attention to that, obviously you're going to have some questions, and I know a number of you do today. And so we're going to recount some of that for you in the presentation today. But please watch your Texas Co-op Power as we go forward, because it's really important, and we put a lot of good information about your cooperative there. So let's talk about the bankruptcy and how that finished up. I'm going to give you a brief history because I know not everybody on the call today was here or a member during all of this time, so I'm going to give you a really brief history. I've got to start with Brazos Electric, who Brazos is. Brazos Electric is a generation and transmission cooperative that is owned by 16 distribution co-ops, and United being one of those 16. And so we have a contract with Brazos, or we have in the past, that says we buy all of our power from Brazos and that we take our transmission service from Brazos and our substation service. Well, during Winter Storm Uri, which was February 14th through the 20th of 2021, so a little over 2 years ago, we had one of the worst and coldest winter storms in recent history. During that time, we had problems all across ERCOT. A number of generators had issues because they froze up. A number of generators had issues of generating power because they couldn't get natural gas to actually generate. Well, Brazos had those issues. Brazos also had some contracts that were tied to natural gas prices, and because all of that got out of whack, those contracts didn't really make. And so in the end, Brazos had about $3 billion of bills right after that event that they had to pay. And ultimately, they didn't have the cash to pay it. They didn't have the credit to pay it. And the only way they could get it is to come to each of the 16 members, and they could have done that, but that would have been a problem for all their 16 members to produce that kind of cash and credit too. And so Brazos made the business decision to go into Chapter 11 bankruptcy in order to have time to work out all the different issues that needed to get worked out. Now, during that time, that $3 billion came from the fact that the wholesale power markets were at $9 a kilowatt hour. And so for all that time that Brazos didn't generate or their contracts didn't make, they had to buy that power, including for us and for our members, at $9 a kilowatt hour. And so if you add that up, that gets to a really big number really fast. And so ultimately, we spent the last 2 years, we had our own legal experts and legal team involved, and we worked through, and there were hundreds of parties at the Brazos bankruptcy table wanting their piece of the pie, if you will. And it was one of the most complex bankruptcies our legal team told us that they've ever dealt with. And from being involved in it for over 2 years, it definitely was. And so ultimately, we ended up at a mediated settlement in the bankruptcy court. And I want to highlight a few of those points with you. Brazos is no longer in the power generation business, so they're actually in the process of selling their generation plants right now. That should be done here in the next few months. Brazos is still a company, still a co-op, and they're still responsible for the transmission service that basically ties our substations to the world, and they're still responsible for the substation service that we have, and so they're still a cooperative that we own going forward. We did take responsibility about 2 weeks ago with the power supply because Brazos no longer does that for us. That was part of the mediated settlement, and I'll talk more about that shortly. In the beginning, the first bill that we got from Brazos, which was a temporary bill, was about $530 million for energy for the month of February. Obviously, that's a really big number. As a result of the bankruptcy, about another $30 million got added to our bill, so that bill went up to about $560 million, roughly. Through the mediation and the settlement, we got that number down to about $440 million, which is a pretty good discount. We're happy that happened, but $440 million is still a lot of money. And so ultimately we did have to pay that as a part of the mediated settlement. And ultimately, had we billed that to you originally, that would have averaged about $4,000 a member had we billed that to you in that February. And obviously, if all of you got a $4,000 electric bill in 1 month, y'all would scream and not be very happy about that. And so ultimately, we felt it wise to finance that over a period of time. And so that's what we've done. The last legislative session, the state of Texas basically enabled a number of laws that allowed different companies to securitize that or basically borrow it over a long period of time. And so our law was Senate Bill 1580, and that was specific to allowing cooperatives to securitize. And that's what we did, and that's the process that we went through, and we issued those securitized bonds in December, and we made our payment to basically exit the mediated settlement. We did work with the mediation judge, and were able to work with the other cooperatives and establish a hardship fund. And so for our low-income members, that billing that that rate that has been added to your bill starting in January is about $0.01 per kilowatt hour. And for those members that are low income, they could actually sign up, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, to offset that cost. And so that's a brief breakdown of what happened and where we're at today. There are some comments that because of the Brazos bankruptcy, that's the reason rates are high. That's not really the case, and so hopefully the bankruptcy overview is helpful to you. Now that that is complete, our relationship has brought in a new party, and you'll see that we actually have a party called Constellation Energy that is our generation provider now, and Brazos is our transmission and substation provider now. And then nothing's changed for us. We're still the distribution company, so we take the power from the substations and distribute it to our members. Now, I brought up the name Constellation for the first time. If you haven't been reading our co-op power, as of March 1st, we started buying our energy from Constellation. And the good news with that is we've been able to drop our rates about 2 cents a kilowatt hour. And I'll show you more of that here shortly. But going into this process and what it looked like to make our decision, ultimately we went to the market and found generation providers that could actually do this for us. And we ended up selecting what we felt like was the best option for us, which was Constellation. We signed that agreement in December of last year. And the board really felt like it was important to cover a number of things. Number one, we had to mitigate the financial risk of another winter storm in the future. We didn't want to end up in this situation again. This agreement that we have with Constellation actually achieves that. It provides rate stability, so we don't have the volatility in this agreement that we had when we were with Brazos. Some months our power cost would be 9 cents wholesale from Brazos, and some months it would be 13 cents. And that was a difficult deal to manage for our members, but we don't have that situation with the new agreement. We believe it's more affordable. Obviously, we've been able to drop the rate several cents, and you'll see that on your next billing, now being at 14 cents. And it also provides us time to prepare for the future, so the agreement's through the end of 2025, and so we'll be getting member feedback on what you'd like us to do going forward. And so when you look at our bill breakdown, typically in the past we've been 70 to 80% of our cost comes from Brazos, and then the rest is from United. And my bill last month was 91% of my bill was from the power supply charges. and so from Brazos, and 9% of it was from United. When we look at that, and I know the frustration of high bills is out there, all of the majority of the cost that's being billed to you is not United charges, it's the power supply charges. And so our goal is how do we get and attack those power supply charges to get them down, and that's what we've been working on. So our goal is to get it back to that 70 to 80% of your cost being a power supply cost, and not 90%. Now, talking about that, and going back in history a little bit, back in January of last year, just to give you some numbers, our rate was 11.6 cents in January of 22. The Encore REP average at that point in time was 11.7 cents, so a little bit higher than us, and our community solar rate was under 10 cents. It was 9.7 cents. So fast forward to July of 22, which, 6 months later, and our rate had gone from 11.6 cents to 15.9 cents. And so I've had a lot of members say your rates have doubled. Well, they didn't. They went from 11 cents to 15.9. So had they doubled, they'd be 22 cents, and they're not. But I'm not downplaying the fact that they did increase significantly, because they did. So why did that happen? So when we went into the summer of 22, there was an extreme amount of volatility, mainly because of Winter Storm Uri and the risk that was in the market at the time. And so natural gas prices rose, market prices rose, and all of the basically people providing energy had to react to that. And so if you look at July 22, the Encore REP average actually went up over 18 cents. It was 18.4 cents. United was 15.9 cents, several cents lower than the market. Our solar rate was 10.2 cents. And so when you look at that, our solar rate was almost half of what Encore's REP average rate was, which is very significant. And so notice July 22, 15.9 cents. Now we go to February of 23. So last month, we're still at 15.9 cents, but the Encore REP average is now 13.2 cents. And so they went from 18.4 to 13.2 in six months, and we stayed the same. And so when folks are comparing us to the market in this very moment in February, it looks pretty bad. But when you look at the entirety of history, we've been a better deal all along. It's just a snapshot in time. But ultimately, we understand that it's not where you want us to be, and we've worked hard to change that. So if you go to March 23, which is current, and so this is the billing that you'll see in April when you get your April bills, our rate is now 14 cents. The Encore REP average is 12.5, so a little bit lower than us. But we do believe as we enter this summer, the REP average is going to clock back up, and that we believe will be right there in market, if not a penny or two lower than the market during that time. Our 4 kW solar is now at 11.8 cents, and so we're well below the Encore REP average now. And so we're back in line pretty close to what the REP market is now. And I can almost guarantee you this summer things are going to look a lot different. Our rate's going to basically stay around 14 cents for the remainder of the year. And so that's what we've got coming. But with that said, we've got a lot of members asking right now, why don't we opt in to retail competition? So we actually can do that. And there is a process to do that, and it does take some time to do it. But really, the contract that we have right now with Constellation goes through the end of 2025, so we can't do it until then. But that actually works out because it takes about 2 years for us to implement that. And so really what we have to decide by the end of 25, and actually before that, is one of 3 options. Option 1 being basically opting into retail competition and us being a wires company only, and that would mean you would select your REPs, and we would be out of the power business completely. Option 2 is basically signing another agreement like we've done with Constellation, and so it's really simple. We've got one provider, and it reduces risk, et cetera. And option 3 is really doing a managed portfolio, so sort of being an REP, if you will, on our own. So we're basically managing the risk and buying a lot of different products and doing business with a lot of different parties, and we believe we can probably push costs down a little bit by doing that, but we will have to accept a little bit of risk doing that. And so those are the challenges that we have with that option. But ultimately, those are our 3 options going forward, and we've got to decide, basically in the time coming what we're going to do. But with members asking the question, and we have a lot of members asking the question right now about opting into competition, we definitely have to pay attention to it and consider it. But I will tell you, in 2022, we did focus groups all across our territory. Every residential member we met with and I'm talking everyone across 5 different meetings that we had across our territory, was adamant about us not opting into retail competition. Not one wanted us to do it. We had a town hall very similar to this one in April of last year, and we asked the same question. And 92% of our members said, do not opt into retail competition. We don't want to deal with that. And so bottom line is, we're a co-op, we're your co-op, you're the members, you're the owners. If you tell us to opt into competition, we're going to do that. Now, if we were to do that, I want you to know a few things about it. Number one, it's going to cost us some money. It's not free to go do all the technology and all the regulatory steps and all of that. I'm not going to get into that detail. Probably $3 to $5 million a year additional cost. We're going to have to add to your distribution rates in order to support that. But at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, that's what we're going to do. It takes us 2 years from notice to actually do that. And so we have to give official notice to the Public Utility Commission of Texas that we're going to enter into competition. And basically it starts a clock of about 2 years to implement. And so that's something that we need to know basically by the first of this coming year. That way we can have it in place by January of 26 if you as members choose for us to go down that path. Now, the challenge with it is, with our market, we have about a 70,000 customer market in our territory. So if we were to opt in, the REPs, the retail electric providers, have to come into our area and integrate with our systems and basically do a handshake with us, if you will, that costs them money. Then they have to market to our territory and hope to get customers, if you will. And so we've had an expert, we hired an expert a few years back that basically looked at our market and said, we don't think you will get any more than about 3 to 5 REPs that come and compete in your market. Now, to put that in perspective, right now in about a 3 million customer market in the Encore territory, there's 52 REPs offering 164 different plans. And so that's a lot of options, and that actually is some competition. There's enough companies trying to get customers. But the question is, with 72,000 instead of 3 million, is there going to be enough REPs that are interested in entering and marketing in that market? We just don't know the answer to that question. And there's nobody that's done it at our size to compare to. There is a cooperative in South Texas that opted into competition about 2 decades ago. They did it for some different reasons, but they did do it. And they have one REP option for residential customers. And it's their own REP. They created an REP to serve their own customers because they didn't have anybody willing to do it. So they went through all the process, spent the years preparing, and at the end of the day, nobody wanted to go into their market to offer their residential customers. And so that's a really big risk. It's a risk that we're worried about. We do have a bigger market. We are close to DFW. Maybe that makes a difference, but maybe it doesn't. But the bottom line is once we make that decision, we can't go back. And so once we notify the PUC and we start the process, we're stuck, and we never get to go back to the way we were. And so it's a really big decision, and that's really what we want to know from you right now. We've had so many members reach out to us and ask us to consider this. We want to sort of see where you're at right now. And so that's the polling question. Dirk, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Yes, this is an opportunity for everyone that's listening in on this live telephone town hall to make your voice heard. You need to use your telephone keypad if you're listening by phone, or if you're participating online, you can make your opinion heard here. The question we've got, and I'll read the question and the options of answer twice. The question we're looking for your input on: how do you wish your power supply to be managed in the future? If you want United to continue to manage your power supply needs, press 1. If you want United to opt into retail competition so you can select your energy provider, please press 2. So again, how do you wish your power supply to be managed in the future? If you want United to continue to manage your power supply needs, please press 1. If you want United to opt into retail competition so you can select your energy provider, please press 2. I see a number of people are registering their opinion. Thank you very much for participating. And another quick reminder, we'll have a Q&A session that will be live during this call. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, please press *3 on your telephone keypad or type your name and question right below the streaming player. Cameron, I'll hand it back over to you again, sir.
Hey, Dirk, thank you very much. And so y'all can understand what the poll response is. We've got about 1,000 folks that have voted so far. 90% of you have said you want us to continue to manage your power supply, and 10% of you have said you want United to opt into retail competition. So there is a small group of you that do want us to consider it, but as you can see, the majority of our members want us to continue to manage the power supply. And that is what we heard last year, and that's why we signed the agreement with Constellation, because we saw that a very, very strong majority of our members did not want to deal with the REP market. And with the risk of not having true competition, we believe that was the right way to go. But we will continue to monitor this. This isn't the last time we're going to talk about this. We'll continue to talk to our members about it across the territory and educate you on what we're dealing with. But with that said, folks, the key issue, we're going to be 14 cents for the next, let's say 7-8 months. And our contract with Constellation does actually afford us some reduction in prices over the term of the agreement. And so as we turn into the new year of each year of the agreement, we actually have a small reduction that we're going to get to implement in the rates. So the good news is our rates will be going down in the future, and that's guaranteed because that's what's written into our agreement right now. So that's good news. But the bad news is, our rates of the 9, 10, 11 cent world probably aren't coming back for a couple of years. And so the only thing that we can do to reduce your bill is to get you to use less energy. And, we've focused on this for years. We haven't made a strong push on it in the last couple of years, but we have pushed hard, and you're going to see us push that hard again going forward. We've got to use less energy. That's the only way to save you money. And the good news is we've got a lot of tools at your co-op to help you out. And on the screen right now, if you're watching on your computer, there's a whole list of things that we do right now. But the key one is the energy audit. If you have not had an energy audit from our team, we don't charge for that. You can come or call in, request an energy audit. You can also do it online. It will come actually to your home and help you figure out how to use less energy. And it's a really important thing for all of our members to focus on. We have a lot of our members. We know the demographics of our membership, and unfortunately a lot are challenged from a financial standpoint. A lot of you on the phone probably fall into that category. Our Operation Roundup program, which is on your bill each month, it rounds up your bill to the closest dollar amount, next highest dollar amount. So average donation, if you will, to that is about 50 cents per month per meter. And all that money goes into your community. And a lot of that, the lion's share of it, goes to support our members that are having a hard time. And so those organizations, the key one being Texas Neighborhood Services, it helps our members from month to month meet their power bills. But we have more: Operation Blessing, Mansfield Mission Center, Hope Inc., Mission Granbury, the Harvest House, and actually quite a few others that we support with those Operation Roundup funds to help our members each and every day. And if you need that help, it is there for you. And I sure hope that you will take advantage of it, because we understand times are hard right now. And we have funded more of those programs than we ever have in our history the last 2 years, and we continue to do that going forward. The other thing to be aware of, and this is just finalized, so if you're in that category of needing assistance, the penny that's getting added to your bill right now to pay the securitization bonds back, if you're a low-income customer, that can actually be wiped off your bill and credited every month, but you do need to sign up for that program. And we've got that on our website now and available. And so I would encourage you to do that. And we'll also be talking more about that in the months to come and reminding you in the magazine how to sign up for that program. And so highly encourage all of our members that are income challenged to do that. I got a few more topics I want to close with today. The first is the bill format. So last year I talked to you about the focus group meetings that we had. And one of the things that we talked about is how we're going to have more components to the power supply charges, because we're bringing Constellation on. Obviously, we got the small securitization charge. All of those are power supply components, and we already have quite a few line items in that part of our bill as it was. And so we talked to our members about that, and there was some comfort in not making the bill more complex. So we simplified it, and we included all those charges in one line item going forward. And some of our members didn't like that. And so we listened to them, and we heard you. So what we did is we made changes in our February billing, and we listened, and what we were told is you wanted us to show the actual rate that we're charging on the power supply charges along with the amount, and so we've done that. You also wanted to see our delivery charge rate added back to the bill. We've always shown it, but we had taken it off. to simplify things, but we put it back. Also on the community solar, for the about 7,000 members that are on that program, we had taken off the kilowatt-hour allocation, so we placed that back, and the savings year to date, we placed that back on the bill. Now, with that said, because the power supply charges are so many line items there, and then likely more as we go forward, we basically have it on our system to where you can still see that detail if you want. You can go see the securitization charge piece and the PCRF piece. All that's still available to you if you log on to my account. And so that's our online system. If you want to see that detail, we're not hiding it. We're not being less transparent. We just are trying to simplify the bill per number of comments that we had received. And so if you want every line item in the world on your bill, we'll put it on there. You just got to tell us. But I'm hopeful that this last change will meet the needs of our members going forward. But if not, please let us know, and we'll make more changes. Recently, this past November, we implemented a new payment processor. And what does that mean? A payment processor is a company that works with our billing system that basically processes all of our payments, whether it's a bank draft or a credit card draft or whatever that is. Well, we had to make some changes with the existing provider, and that was going to require some reprogramming on our billing system. And so our billing company said, why don't you just use the company that all of our other customers use? And so that's what we did. So we shifted to this new company called Invoice Cloud. We implemented it in November. In preparation for that, in the October Texas Co-op Power, or the November Texas Co-op Power, we actually put an article in there explaining the process, and that everybody that was on credit card draft was going to have to reinitialize their credit card number. And the reason we had to do that is because of rules. We couldn't move the credit card number from one payment processor to another. And so we put it in Co-op Power. We sent an email to all the members on credit card draft, and ultimately a lot of folks did not read that or did not see that. And so it caused a lot of pain to those that were on credit card draft. I myself, I'm on a bank draft, and I didn't even really notice a difference. It was all basically seamless for me. But I understand it was a really big problem for those that were on credit card draft, and so we apologize for that. We are working through those issues. Now, the bad news is we learned some other issues that we didn't know were there with this new processor that we're working through right now. But we do have the CEOs of both our billing company and the payment processor engaged in fixing these issues, and we were being told that all the issues should be resolved by the end of March. So please continue to be patient with us. We're trying to do what we can to push those two companies to fix these last few issues, and those of you that have been wrapped up in that are very aware that we've had some problems there, but we are working through them, and we apologize for any inconvenience that has provided you. I'm going to give you a quick legislative update and then finish with Internet. Legislatively, we are in session again. If you weren't aware, the state of Texas legislators meet every 2 years, and we're in session right now. There's two key issues that are being discussed related to your co-op. There's actually a lot more than that, but there's two I'm going to talk about. One of which is the ERCOT market redesign. And so the market in Winter Storm Uri, it was clear that it didn't work well. And so they made some minor changes to it, if you will, after Winter Storm Uri and the months after. But there's some desire to make some significant changes. The PUC of Texas, PUC is a Public Utility Commission. They basically offered some suggestions. We weren't a real big fan of their suggestions as far as the co-op market, including United. Others like it, others don't. The legislators didn't really like it so much, and so we're waiting to see what happens there. The bill filing deadline was last Friday, and thousands upon thousands of bills were filed Thursday and Friday of last week, and we haven't had the chance to sift through all those yet to figure out what the proposals are, but we will keep you in the loop of those things as we go forward. The bad news is some of the proposals just add more cost to the market. And we don't really believe that they actually help the problem all that much. So we're going to be doing everything we can to represent you in the legislature to ensure that we're not adding cost that doesn't really help us out in the long term. The second thing I want to bring up to your attention, so I mentioned earlier that a number of securitization bills were passed in the last session. Another one of those that I didn't talk about earlier was actually for the gas distribution companies in Texas. So like Atmos Gas, and some of our members are also customers of Atmos Gas. Well, they had a big bill as a result of Winter Storm Uri 2 between Atmos and CenterPoint Energy, the two biggest gas suppliers in Texas for distribution. Their bill is over $3 billion between the two of them. Well, we saw this little tidbit in the appropriations bill that basically said the rainy day fund was going to be used to pay their securitization costs, and the customers wouldn't actually have to do it. As you can imagine, we didn't like that very much because our customers are already paying those charges. And so we've engaged legislatively, and we're trying to get some of that rainy day fund for you as well to offset some of that 1 cent adder that we've got on our bill right now. It's way too early to see if we're going to be successful or not, but we're working hard to get some parity between us and the natural gas distribution companies, and we'll keep you updated on our success or no success there. But we're working on that really hard for your behalf right now. Moving into internet, and I'll try to be brief in just a few more minutes to finish up here. A couple of years ago, you all voted, and it was over 90% of you voted for us to get into the business of internet, and we've done it. We're serving almost 17,000 subscribers today, and that number's growing every day. We're nowhere near done of where we want to be yet, and we're working hard at it. What we told you back then, it was going to take us 5 full years to get this done once we started. We started almost 3 years ago today, and so we've got 2 more years to finish our construction and our connections. And so I know that doesn't make everybody happy because there's a lot of you, I see questions online that when am I going to get internet, and it is a question we get all the time. I will tell you a little bit of information. So we're going to be working really hard in the Granbury area over the next 9 months to complete some of the construction on distribution fiber there. And then we're also right now working in broadening further away from Stephenville in the more rural areas. And we've been working hard on that. We've recently turned up service around Possum Kingdom Lake on the peninsula there, and we're spreading out from there. So we're trying to get service everywhere we can as quickly as we can. Our original plan was to deploy, I think the original business plan showed about $215 million of expense. We've spent about $170 million. The project has grown to about $260 million at this point. And the reason it's grown, a little bit of inflation, but also we've expanded our reach of fiber. And so as we've seen take rates increase and certain things happen on the system, we've been able to revise our business plan to actually build more fiber and less wireless. And so we're really excited about that. And we're shooting for 90 to 95% of our members having access to fiber to the home by the time we're done, and the rest being wireless. And if you remember from years back, we talked about wireless as just a stopgap to get everybody fiber at the end, and that's our plan still. And so things are going really well, and looking forward to you signing up. I will say when we look at some of our data, there's a number of you that voted yes for the project where we actually are serving internet right now, and y'all haven't signed up. And so please sign up. We built this because you voted yes, and so it's time for you to sign up. I will tell you, our members are reporting. We just got an 88 ACSI score on our internet, which is extremely high for an internet system. The average internet ACSI is around 60 or 70, and so we've got an exceptional service and a really good price. So I really hope that you'll sign up. On our website, you'll see the service areas that we're serving today, and you can see that is broadening further and further around our territory, and that will continue to increase until our whole territory is covered. There are a few areas that are marked not enough member interest, and those are the areas that we feel like there was a decent option of internet in that area already, and we're not spending money in those areas to serve people that already have good internet service. And so if at a time in the future those members in that area vote for us to extend in their areas individually, we will. So that's the update I have from you. I tried to hurry up. I'm sorry to put so much information in a short amount of time, but we wanted to have enough time to answer a lot of questions, and we do have a lot of questions. So we're going to do our best to make our way through that.
So as a quick reminder, yes, sir. As a quick reminder, if you'd like to ask a question and you're listening in on the telephone, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. Or if you're online on the website, you can type your name and question right below the streaming player. And our first question, we're joined by John. John, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question, please. Hello, John. We'll see if we can get back to Mr. John there. Occasionally this does happen. A number of people have been in the queue waiting to ask their question for a few moments here. Let's move on to Julie. Julie, welcome to the call. You're live. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, my question is back reference the Storm Uri. I'm on a run that was actually shut off at 5 a.m. every morning, did not return till afternoon for all 3 days. However, we did rotating after that, which you guys did announce the rotating. It was not due, well, only 1 hour and a half was due to crews working on a line. The rest of the time it was not. It was just shut off. Why is it that I have to pay the same rate as somebody who didn't get shut off? I believe you said before it was 33% of us were affected, 66% were not. But the 33% that were affected did not get any discount to repaying that. That's my question.
Yeah, it's a fair question. You know, we're an electric cooperative, and we do business as a whole. And so we don't, you know, in that situation, we're not really designed to go and say, okay, well, you were only on power for this, and this member was only on power for this. You know, we do business as a whole as the electric co-op. So, you know, from a fairness standpoint, you know, I could see where you could feel that would be more fair, but from an accounting standpoint, it would be impossible for us to go and look at each individual customer and member and determine what their individual rates would be. And so we did it as a whole. And because we did it as a whole, it's not great. I don't love the fact that we're adding a penny to your bill right now to cover that, but it's affordable and it's reasonable considering the amount of money that we were dealing with. And the other thing, and I didn't say it on the call, but the securitization number is fixed, the bond payment we make every year. And so as we grow in the future and add more customers, it'll get spread to every customer that adds to our system. The legislature designed it that way. And so ultimately the cost will actually go down on your bill over time as we grow. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, not really, because it really isn't fair. I have 2 meters and I'm paying I'm paying a lot of money back for power I didn't use that month. Everybody's didn't use their power. It was not high in February. You know, and that was strictly across the board for everybody because there's so many outages and all that. But my second question is the bond market. Who bought the bonds for to pay that off, and what is the interest rate that we're paying them back?
The bonds were purchased through a process. There's about 20 bondholders in our bond sale, and they're typically institutional investors like insurance companies. I don't have the list of people in front of me right now. I'm not even sure I can tell you those names legally. But ultimately, we did sell those bonds. The average interest rate is around 5%. We had a bond price run up about the time that all this happened. The markets did some goofy things, which the markets have been doing goofy things since about middle of last year as far as bonds go. So it was higher than what we wanted, but at the end of the day, we had to pay the bill and we had to exit bankruptcy, and so that was our interest rate, a little bit over 5%.
And I'll pass on the rest of my questions so everybody else gets a chance. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Julie. Thank you.
All right. Remember, if you would like to ask a question, *3 on your telephone keypad. And let's move on now. Looks like we've got Barbie joining us on the line. Barbie, welcome to the call. What is your question for Cameron?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that if any United customers wanted to opt into the internet service and have not done that, they should, because it is the best internet service I've ever had. It's fast, it's reliable. I love it. And my question is, I'm curious to know how our power is sourced. Do we get our power from natural gas powered plants? And is any of our power sourced from wind and solar? I'm not a fan of wind and solar. I don't believe they are reliable. And I'm just curious to know how our power is sourced.
Barbie, that's a good question. First of all, I appreciate your comments on the internet. I have it too at my house finally, and it's great. It's the best internet service I've ever had too. So thank you for those comments. As far as the power being sourced, we signed the contract with Constellation, so it's Constellation's responsibility to source that power. I can tell you there are two major power sources in the U.S. are natural gas and nuclear. That's their core business and where they source most of their power. In ERCOT, it's mainly natural gas. based, and so that's where they get their power from. We don't have a significant amount of our energy being supplied by renewables today. We have a community solar program where we have about 20 megawatts of solar that actually is in our service territory that a number of our members participate in. But we will be adding more to the community solar program, but that's not given to every member, only those members that sign up. So hopefully that answered your question.
It did. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Next up, we're joined by Walter. Walter, you're live on the call. Go ahead with your question, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking my call. A lot of people really got hurt in the rural areas because of the freeze. And looking at it from a hindsight, the Railroad Commission and the folks there at the overseeing the energy did not do as good a job as they should have. I believe that very strongly, and I'm a member of the industry. Having said that, did anyone make a concerted effort to tap some of the $33 billion surplus and help share the load so that the impact wasn't so severe on people like the co-op? I will point out that we have something like 15 to 20 co-ops and very strong political boards with tremendous entree to the legislature, to the governor and the lieutenant governor. And was there an effort made to say, look, 33 billion, share about 2 or 3 billion of that so as to ease the burden of these people impacted? Thank you.
Walter, thank you so much for your question. I've got two answers for it because there's two time periods I want to talk about in relation to your question. The first one is after Winter Storm Uri and the months that ensued after that. We at United made a very concerted effort to try to get the governor to understand the issue of the market, not just the co-ops, but the whole market in general. So I was chosen to testify in front of both the House and Senate committees at the state on Winter Storm Uri issues. And one of the things that we were advocating for is, there needs to be a solution for the whole market failure, not just let everybody, sink or swim, because every utility had different ramifications out of the event. So those that had generators in South Texas, it didn't get as cold, and so maybe their generators didn't freeze and they didn't have the impacts that we had in North Texas. And there was a lot of that inequity across the whole ERCOT market in this event. And so, ultimately, at the end of the day, the legislature and governor decided not to help and basically just allow the individual entities to deal with the results, and that's why they passed all the different securitization bills for all the different markets, if you will. Now let's fast forward to today. We are very, involved, if you will, in trying to engage with the governor's office, lieutenant governor's office, the speaker's office right now to get their attention on this issue. It's not great that we've already had to basically buy the bonds. We wouldn't have wanted to do it in that order. But ultimately, we're trying to get some of that $33 billion that you're talking about to help offset the securitization costs that we're having to pay right now. And all I can tell you is we're doing the best we can right now. I feel pretty good about it. We actually have two bills filed, one in the Senate and one in the House, that actually sets this up to help the cooperative market. The appropriations bill, we have a modification that's been filed on our behalf on that to basically allow it to happen. And so we're moving in a good direction, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what the governor signs. And so I will let you know if we get certainty on what those bills are, and if they do make it through the committees and they do make it to the point to where they're being voted on, we will let our members know, hey, call your local reps and senators to let them know to support these bills and get some co-op rate relief. So we are working hard on it right now.
Extremely good answer. Thank you so much. Just keep in mind, you have got a large number of Texas citizens, and just don't rely on board or your lobbyists. You energize that broader group to catch the attention of the governor and the lieutenant governor, or nothing is going to happen. and we may have another storm in 2 or 3 years, and we're going to look back and say, well, why did we take these draconian measures so this never happened again? Thank you so much. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Walter. I appreciate it.
All right, next up, we've got Rand on the line with us. Rand, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, thank you. Cameron, with Constellation, is the co-op's rate from them based on a specific gas price that maybe a historical gas price? And I'll just prep that to say that in August of last year, gas was at $8.81 per thousand. It's now averaging about $2.50 per thousand. And if there's anything in this immediate next 2 years where we would get a reduction in rates based on falling gas prices.
Rand, that's an excellent question, and it's really pertinent to the way that these contracts are done. So we executed the Constellation agreement in December, and the way these forward contracts are done, these companies that own a lot of natural gas generation, they basically lock in their gas when you sign your agreement. And so what they looked at in December when we signed that agreement is they looked at the forward forward gas market, and they actually locked in the day we signed it. Actually, within minutes of when we signed the agreement, they actually locked in all of our gas for our agreement through 2025. And so what I can tell you is the short-term gas market is horribly volatile right now, and if you know the numbers, you probably know that. It's been just in the last couple of months, it's been as high as 8, 9, 10, and as low as $1.80. And it's crazy from day to day, and it reacts to different things that are said in the media and all sorts of stuff. And so but the futures tend to be more stable, and when you look at the futures contracts for gas, they've been in that $3 to $4 mark for a little while now. And definitely since probably November, December, and so when we signed that, our contract was based on futures prices through 2025. So with that said, if futures prices take a dip down, let's say to $2.50 or whatever, we have locked in our gas already for our contract. So all that gas has been purchased, and so you will not see a reduction in our price if gas futures go to $2.50 or $3 because all of our gas has already been purchased.
That's a good answer. I appreciate that very much. I'm happy to hear that you didn't close our deal with Constellation at a gas price indicative of where it was late last summer, and that we're in that $3 to $4 range. I think is reasonable. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your question. Very good question.
All right, another question here we've got coming in from the internet. Judy is looking for you, Cameron, to remind us how the internet rollout is being financed, and then also wonders, will we be able to take advantage of infrastructure funds from the feds or the state?
Well, Judy, I hope you're still listening. Ultimately, that is being financed by, we get our financing to build plant from 3 different sources. We get it from a company called CoBank, we get it from a company called CFC, and then we get it from the Federal Financing Bank through the Rural Utility Service. Most of the financing that we get for long-term financing for our plant is through the Rural Utility Service Federal Financing Bank. The reason we do that is because it's the cheapest debt that we can get. And so most of our internet plant is being funded through the Rural Utility Service through a process that we went through them to do a smart grid project, because as we roll out the internet, we're also connecting all of our electric system by fiber and enhancing our electric service capabilities. And so that's why we're able to borrow those funds from the Rural Utility Service. Where we can't get it from them, we're utilizing CoBank and CFC to enhance that. And so hopefully that answers your question on the financing. On the infrastructure funds, we have fought this battle quite a bit, and unfortunately we have not been able to achieve any grant funding yet. And there's a lot of reasons for it that I'm not going to get into on this call because it's pretty complicated. But we haven't given up. We continue to try to get grant funding any way we can, especially to take fiber to that last 5 to 10% of our members. And then we're working hard on that right now. And we have hopes maybe in the next year or so we can get a little bit of funding to help us get all fiber to the rest of the system. But as of today, we haven't been able to get that accomplished.
So we're heading back to the phones. We've got Brian on the line with us now. Brian, welcome to the call. What is your question?
Yes, thank you. I was not here for Uri, so I missed that event, but I understand that paying $9 a kilowatt hour is a lot of money. It just seems like extortion to me, and I was wondering, are there regulations so that this does not happen again?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. So let's talk a little bit about that. So, yes, there's a lot of people that thought that price was crazy. Well, that was the market cap price that was set by regulation at the time, and it was that $9 a kilowatt hour. It was never expected to actually run for 4 days at a time. It was expected to run at 15 minutes at a time here or there, a couple times a year. But the market cap and the way everything worked out, it actually ran that, and there's some actually other charges that happened and pushed up prices even higher than that. I'm not going to get into those details, but so one of the market changes that was implemented was a $5 cap, and so they went from 9 to 5. Is that a big change? You can say it's almost half. It's still horribly disastrous in another Winter Storm Uri event. And so I think there's an understanding that more needs to be done to affect the ERCOT market. Now, from our standpoint, our agreement and the way it works today, we don't have that exposure to those market prices with the Constellation agreement. So in a Winter Storm Uri event, if it were to happen, let's say next winter, we're not going to have that exposure to those prices because our prices with the Constellation agreement are fixed. And so we've got protection from that event going forward. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right, I'd like to go back to another online question, if that's okay with you, Cameron. This one was supplied by Brandy, who writes, I have a 98-year-old mother on oxygen. Is there any way to assure that any outage is addressed as soon as possible?
I'm sorry, Dirk, something broke up. Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, absolutely. This is an internet question sent in by Brandy. She has a 98-year-old mother on oxygen. Is there any way to assure that any outage is addressed as soon as possible?
I'm sorry, Dirk. Yes. So I hope she signed up with our critical account status. If she's not, just call into our office, and there's a form that's filled out and signed by the doctor, and we'll take note of that. But I will tell all members that anytime we have an outage, we have a goal to have that back on within 2 hours. That's our internal goal. And for the most part, we actually overachieve at that level, and we have for a number of years. Now, there's certain situations that are just outside of our control that take longer to restore an outage. But a typical thunderstorm that moves through, we've got enough crews and support that we can meet that 2-hour average on most occasions. Now, with that said, any member that's on critical care, if we know you're there, then we actually know you're there. And so when an outage occurs and you're involved in that, we know it, and we give some priority to that based on your needs. So ultimately, if you haven't filled out the form, you need to do that.
Thank you, sir. Let's go back to a caller now. We've got Stephanie on the line with us. Stephanie, what is your question?
Yes, I was wanting to know, you said that for the last 2 years they didn't give back to the members of, what was paid in or the profit. When you said this year will start again, when do you think we'll get checks back for that, something like that, when they start up again?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably in the fall is when we would do it. We typically look at our full financials from the year before and then want to get farther enough along in the year to actually see how the current year is doing before we make that decision. And so probably September we'll be making that decision. And we do think we're going to be able to start back again this year.
So we should be possibly getting one of them checks toward the end of the year, maybe, to the members you're saying? Okay.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you so much.
Ma'am.
All right, next up, we've got Bridget on the line. Bridget, welcome to the call. You're live. What is your question?
My question is back to the Uri and Brazos going into bankruptcy. My question is how long is this going to continue us having to pay it before our bills drastically drop from being that high? Because I looked at my bill, mine's $441.74 just for the power supply charges and including the generation, transmission, submission. So when can we expect that to drop?
So Bridget, if you look at your bill, you'll have a number of kilowatt hours you used, and let's say it was 4,000, just as an example, which is probably not too far off based on the number you told me. And so basically a penny times 4,000 is $40. So $40 of that bill is a securitization charge. And so ultimately that goes on for a long time. It's going to go on for 28 years. That's the thing that we agreed to keep from billing you a really, really big bill in 1 month. And so we spread it out over a long period of time. And ultimately, over time, like I described earlier, that charge is going to go down over time because we're growing. And the bond payment actually doesn't change annually. It's a fixed bond payment. And so that $40 may only be $18 by the time we're later in that time frame on that 4,000 kilowatt hours that you're using.
Okay, so actually out of 441, only $40 is going towards that Brazos Electric problem.
That's correct. That's about right. Yep.
Oof. Okay. Well, I just don't understand why my bill is so extremely high. I'm with the rest of them. I just don't understand it because I know I looked at my bill and y'all have the graph from last year, the electric I used to this year to what I used, and it was a drastic drop in the amount that I used, but yet my bill is almost $300 higher than what it was.
Let me explain it to you, and maybe it'll be helpful for everybody. And so the last, let's say, 7-8 months of power supply charges that Brazos had charged us, and anything we had charged from Brazos, we just pass on to you. We don't make any margin on that. And so whatever they bill us, we bill you, and that's where all the cost has been for all the members. And so as I told you earlier, my bill last month, only 9% of it was charges going to United. 91% of the rest of that bill was actually being passed on directly to Brazos. The last 9 months, the Brazos wholesale power cost to us has averaged between 10 and 13 cents a kilowatt hour. That's the wholesale rate. And so what's happened is, their processes and their purchases that they've made have been really high cost. It's ultimately the volatility of the market. They've done a lot of hedging to try to keep bad things from happening, and there's been cost to that. The gas prices, the gentleman that just brought that up earlier, we bought a lot of gas at $8, $9, and $10 for a period of time during that last 9 months. That's really expensive energy, and so all of that together, coming off of a really high summer price, it created about 9 months of really high cost from Brazos. The good news is there is no more Brazos power. That's gone. And so now we've got a situation where Constellation is selling us that power, and it's at a fixed rate, and we don't have this crazy volatility anymore. And so, and I mentioned to you already that the rate is going down 2 cents, and it's already gone down 2 cents, and you'll see that in your April billing. It doesn't make you feel any better, and doesn't make me feel any better. I've had the highest bills I've ever had since being a United member, and I've been a United member for 25 years. So ultimately, it's what was billed by Brazos that we passed on to you. That's what's caused all of this heartache for all of our members, and we've just made a change, and Constellation is doing it now, and you're going to see savings as a result of it.
Okay, so when you say we'll see a savings, will it be a nice drop or just a few cents?
It's been 15.9 cents, and it's going down to 14 cents.
Okay.
And we're going to hold it 14 cents, and that's all in, so that's including our charges, and we'll hold it 14 cents, pretty close to that through the end of this year.
Okay, but can I expect to keep paying $500-something a month?
It depends completely on how much you use. And that's what, and it's a great conversation that we're having, because ultimately, and I said it during the call, cost is higher than it's ever been right now, and we did just have a.
I understand that end of it. Now I understand better that I know what happened with Brazos. I just don't know how long I can keep up with this, because my electric bill's almost as high as my mortgage payment, and I just lost my husband, so I'm a single person trying to live off of 1/3 the income that I had. And I may have to go
And
back to the old Western days where I'm living by candle and a wood stove to cook on.
I understand that, and I empathize with you, and it's a hard time for a lot of our members right now. It sounds like you would probably qualify for some of the assistance that's out there right now, and I would sure hope that you would look into it and potentially
Okay,
sign
well,
up
I will call United Cooperative again, but when I called within the last 2 months, I was told there was no deals for low income.
No, that's not accurate. So we'll get with you. We've got your number and your name, and we'll have somebody reach out to you shortly.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
answered my questions.
Thank you.
All right, our next caller, we've got Judy joining us. Welcome to the call, Judy. What is your question?
My question is, all the stuff that's going on with the Brazos United Co-op, how is that going to affect our internet service? That we don't have it yet. Is it are the funds out of the internet service to be used for anything else, or that money already been allotted to the internet and won't be used for anything else?
But you're right on target with that. So that's a separate project altogether, and we've maintained funds separate for that, and we have funding separate for that. So, we're still moving forward with the internet project, and the good news is we're done with the bankruptcy. We're done with Brazos. We're out of that now. We've got everything resolved. So, that's not really affecting our business going forward. So that's great news for everybody.
Well, now, I heard you say you're going towards Granbury. I live in Nemo. That's close to Glen Road. How close are y'all getting to our area? Because our internet service, we've lived here 6 years. We have had the most awful internet service. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible. And I told them when we signed up for the internet, we've already signed up a long time ago for the internet, that you better hurry because I'm 76 and my husband's 79. We're going to be dead before we get it if you don't hurry up.
Well, I hope that you can hold out for us. So, no, it's coming.
How close to Nemo? We're Nemo.
We're getting closer. That's a more rural territory that you're in, but we're serving a lot of rural territory and not too far from Nemo right now. So it's coming. I can't tell you exactly the answer to that, but I did tell you we're done in 2 years from now. So it's within 2 years. Hopefully sooner than that.
All right. Well, like I said, you better hurry because I'm not getting any younger.
I understand, ma'am. Thank you.
And I trust y'all. I have no concerns about your honesty. I really do trust you. I've been with United Co-op, well, probably I can't even remember how many years, because when we lived in another place, we were United Co-op also before the 6 years we lived here.
Well, we hope to give you internet, and I know when we get it there to you, you're going to be very pleased.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate it.
Thank you, too. You have a great day.
God bless.
All right, looking at the clock, it looks like we have time for just one more question. But anybody who still has a question that we haven't been able to get to, you can email townhall@ucs.net to get your questions answered. Again, please send a question via email to townhall@ucs.net. Now, for that final question, we give that honor to Ray, who joins us now on the line. Ray, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question, sir.
I'm, of course, with all the different options with renewable energy, I'm interested in solar, and I was wondering, is United Cooperative working with contractors that provide solar energy to offer us possibly some good advice on good solar companies, and have customers that have been buying solar in the Granbury area, buying solar panels in the Granbury area? Are they having good results with that?
All right, thanks for your question. I want to answer it in a couple of different ways. First of all, we do support members doing solar. The bad news is there's a lot of bad actors out there that are selling solar right now that are causing our members some issues, promising a lot of things that aren't true, and then doing substandard installations and those kind of things. And so I would highly encourage you, if you're anybody that's listening and considering solar, to call into us. We've got experts that will help you at least understand some of the more reputable companies out there that we're dealing with and those that sort of follow the rules and help our members instead of take advantage of them, because I'll tell you, most of them take advantage of them, and it doesn't end up as a good situation, and then we get to deal with it after the fact. Another thing for our members that are still listening to be aware of, we're about to enter into this business because of the problems that we see happening, and we've recently hired some staff and are working with some contractors to stand up that business right now, and so probably by the end of this year we'll be able to start taking orders, if you will, for members that want to install solar. But we're going to be really transparent with our members and say, look, this is what it costs. Is this really what you want to do? Because it may be more cost effective to upgrade your heat pump, instead of spending the money on the solar. But we've got all the expertise to give you that information. We've got all the data because we know what you use, and we can give you very detailed estimates and analysis on all of that. And it's not about us making money. It's about you getting the service that's going to help you the most financially, and that's what we're going to be focusing on. And so we'll be doing that here pretty soon. So if you have some time to wait a little bit, maybe towards the end of the year, we should have our service up and running and be able to start supporting our members. But if you're wanting to move forward more quickly, please reach out to us, and we can help you make sure you get the right size and deal with some of the more reputable companies that are out there.
That was a perfect answer to my question. Thank you very much, and you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. And I'd just like to close right now. I know while we've had so many questions that we haven't been able to answer specifically, I mean, I've answered quite a few questions, and basically there's a number of them that are similar to what I've answered, but not exactly. And so the town hall at ucs.net, we obviously have a list of questions that are here, and our staff will reach out to you and answer your question one by one and make sure every question that was asked tonight gets answered. Unfortunately, we can't be here for the next 4 hours answering these questions because we have that many. And so ultimately we are going to answer every question that was given to us tonight. But thank you. You're a member of the co-op. You're an owner of this co-op, and we want to do the right thing for you every day. We want to provide that exceptional service and value, and that's what we're all about. And we have that one singular purpose, and there's really no other purpose for us being here other than our members. And so I just appreciate you participating tonight. Thank you. Be blessed and be safe. Thank you.